And Brother Manuel, the crazy thing was, I guess he thought I was at 25 years old going to fall for that. So after church, I mean, my stomach was in knots the whole service while I was trying to preach. That's how the devil tries to function.
Right.
Yeah.
He can get you stirred up.
Yeah.
He can make you think that, they're in control, or he tries to do all. Then all of a sudden, he gets you all off of your job.
Right.
I walked in my office, and he went to sit down. I said, "No, don't sit down. You stand up." I said, "What do you need, Brother John?" You don't preach that type of sermon, and then all of a sudden he needs to talk in the middle of the service.
Yeah.
So I sat down behind my desk, but I was tired. I was sweating. I'd been preaching. I wasn't going to let him sit down, though. Because if they get comfortable, then they may talk a while. And so I said, "What is it, Brother John? What do you need?" He said, "I don't think that we should be preaching that type of message in this church." I said, "I don't care what you think. My name's on the sign out there, and I'm going to preach it the way God tells me to preach it."
Amen.
And how you like me now? He looked at me, and he crossed his arms just like you do right now. Don't you smiling at me. Bishop, he crossed them arms, and he said, "Well, what do you mean? You're just a young runt. And I said, "Well, John, I don't care what you make. Well, I'm a millionaire. You can't talk to me like that." I said, "You started this conversation. I was just doing my assignment."
Right.
So he commits to telling me, y'all still use that word up here, commits? He commits to telling me that we don't need to preach about holiness in the church no more. And we don't need to still talk about how, being holy is still right. And we don't need to talk about, do you still preach about that here? I just want to make sure I don't mess something up for you. I knew you did. But he started trying to tell me, my wife is going to do this and my wife's going to do that and it's okay. And if she wants, I said, "Well, fine, do what you got to do." That's between you and God and hell.
Yeah. That's right.
And he started telling me, he was telling me all this. And I didn't even ask, "Why are you telling me? I don't care.
All right. Yeah.
I'm still going to preach the book."
Yes.
I'm talking about a power of failure. That's what my title was. And all of a sudden, that man started, he hammered me for 20 minutes. Telling me everything that his wife was going to do, and she was still going to be the Sunday school teacher.
Oh my.
I said, "Really? Okay." Well, I said, "I'll tell you what, you tell her to leave the keys on her Sunday school room table. I'll take care of that room Sunday." Because, again, my name's on the sign.
That's right.
Right.
I never played that game. It was just that conversation. And all of a sudden, he went back in, Pastor Chris, he went back into telling me how, the book didn't really mean this, and didn't mean that, and all this stuff, and I'm going to get out of your hair, I promise, but I've got to tell you this because this is really how it works. He literally told me that if I ever preached about holiness again, that he would personally have a vote in that church and vote me out. I said, "Well, hold on just a minute. Let's go in the church." Nobody had left yet. I said, "Everybody be seated." We just dismissed. I said, "Let's be seated." Just happened to be that the presbyter, he didn't realize the presbyter had just snuck in the back door. I said, "Brother Meyer, would you come in here? I need to handle something real quick." I'm really closing, I promise you. Brother Meyer said, "Yes, sir. What's going on, Brother Hobbs?" I said, "We need to have a vote of confidence right now because I'm not letting this go one more second in this church." Man, I'm talking, I got 100% re-election. And that man was a part of the 100%. I said, "That don't make no sense. You just made me look like a fool. So this is what happened. He kept on pushing for the next couple months. He kept pushing, Bishop. I'm really close. He kept pushing. Stood up dead in the middle of another service. And the Lord spoke to me and said, you tell that man if he don't take his hands off of you, I'm going to let him die.
Mighty God.
I said, I'm not telling him that now, Lord. I ain't worried about the tithes, but you tell him that, you know. And I started talking about other stuff, and the Lord said, I said, tell that man if he don't take his hands off of you, I'm going to let him die.
Mighty God.
So about 4 minutes later, I got the nerve. He kept talking while I was talking. And I said, sir, the Lord spoke to me and told me to tell you, if you don't remove your hands and your mouth off of me, the Lord's going to let you die. Oh, well, God can't do that. God wouldn't do that. I pay my tithes, and my family's all here. Look at them all over there. And God wouldn't let me do that. I resigned 2 weeks later. I went back to Arkansas. I just came back to God's country. You sit down there and argue all you want to. 364 days later, his wife called me and said, Pastor Hobbs, I just need to tell you something. John, 2 days after you said what you said about God, and he said that the Lord wouldn't do that to him, 2 days later, he was really sick and went to the doctor and found out that he had stage 4 pancreatic cancer.
Mighty God.
And he's made it this whole year. And I started looking back at the calendar. And it was literally 364 days from that night that the Lord spoke that word to him, and he did not listen. He got on the phone. She said, would you let him talk to you? I said, absolutely, sis, I'd love to. He said, Pastor, frail voice. He was so sick. And I loved this man. I didn't understand why I had to hit that way. But he said, Pastor, would you please forgive me? He said, I know God. And he was talking just real broken, his voice. He said, I knew that night that God was going to wipe me out because I put my hands on the man of God.
Mighty God.
And I did it in front of my lost loved ones. And I did it in front of other people that needed the Holy Ghost. And I just want to tell you, I'm 45 minutes later, it turned midnight. 365 days from that day, 1 year, the Lord called him home. But he didn't go out unsaved. God gave him one last shot at this. Every